Come on, come on, spontaneous views. I was going to hop into some videos that I need to catch up on. Let me just cut to the chase. I'm going to be talking about the NFL draft, primarily dealing with Sheduer Sanders. I have some videos queued up here. Before I start, I don't know where to begin at with this process. To put it in a nutshell, even though I'm going to go through these videos, this is obviously some type of collusion that happened this past weekend. There's a lot of scenarios that I looked at that I can conclude with at the end of this video so we can kind of get a better understanding. But let me go through some videos. I'm dealing with a couple sports shows. I know you're probably familiar with, the faculty with, oh man, I'm losing my train of thought. LaShawn McCoy, Ocho, Daniels, James Jones be on the show sometimes. I don't think he's on this episode. I think he was on one that happened like the day before, where they spoke about him not being drafted in the first round. Let me just cue up some videos. Y'all know how I get down. I'm just going to just touch on these videos and give you my point on this one. This is the first one I'm going to deal with. This is the faculty.
It's going to be a great conversation. It is the most important conversation of the day. Sheduer Sanders, some would have suggested, was a first-round pick. Some at times suggested he should have been the #1 overall pick, but he didn't even go in the first round. Shady McCoy, start us off. You're always honest. Be as real, authentic as possible. That's what I promised the viewers. Get to it, 2-5. Why was the biggest reason Sheduer fell out of the first?
For stuff like that, right? They don't like that he's secure of who he is. He knows who he is. He doesn't come in there, kiss the ring, trying to fit in. He wants to do things his way, right? And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, when you're so confident in yourself, they don't want to see you like that. They want to see a rookie, whatever you need, coach, I'm going to do this. No, I'm here to play football. I'm here to win games. That's all he talks about. Everything he talks about is all positive. All the messages we keep seeing in reports is all negative. Nothing is about the way he plays the game.
Does our mascot look like Danny DeVito to you?
And I'm gonna talk over the ads.
This is a commercial for Jersey
Not
Mike's,
only
where the
was
subs
he
matter most. Yeah.
Well, it's gonna end.
Focus on
I'm gonna
where
wait
the
for him
subs
to.
matter most. It's a Jersey Mike's thing.
I'm gonna wait for him to conclude this.
Chase, you said something yesterday about the way, he comes off, and you might not like that, right? Et cetera, this, that, and the third. But if you watched TV yesterday, everybody had the swagger yesterday. Everybody had them big chains on.
And that's one point that I want to get to. They make a big deal about Sheduer's appearance. Why do you care about his appearance? I've been watching football for a long time. I've seen plenty of athletes come in with the gold teeth chains on, got the hat turned back, got the shades, got an outrageous outfit. They have one of them suits that like one of them Craig Sagal outfits. Is that his name? I don't know if he passed. Rest in power if he did pass. Craig, the basketball guy that used to have the weird suits. You know what I'm saying? But you had that. You had the flashiness. This had nothing to do with his off the field. Well, it shouldn't have had nothing to do with his off the field, but it did. No one can tell me a reason as to why this guy wasn't drafted first round after he had the career he had in college football, especially from the quarterbacks that came out this year. That is absurd. It's no way that Sheduer Sanders should not have been drafted at least the first round. But let's continue.
You don't want to see, or they don't want to see. Everybody had them on. They was running around looking real confident, looking real flashy. Everything that the reports say, stuff that you said you don't like, everybody was doing it. But I ain't hear no whispers about that. It's cool though. I get what's going on.
And I'm gonna keep it real with you too. I'm a Giants fan. I should have had my Giants jersey on. But it was a love-hate thing with the Giants. The reason why I'm saying this is because Abdul Carter, great pickup. But look how he came out. Abdul Carter had the chain on, shades, hat turned back, walking with swag, walking like he was invincible. But what was it? It's because he was kissing behind in the meetings? What was it? Like, what prompted you to not compare Abdul Carter and Sheduer Sanders? They look like the same person if you look at their appearance. And it wasn't just Abdul. It was at least the first 10 to 15 picks. Dudes was chained out. Dudes was looking like they was about to go to the club.
They don't like his style of play. Don't like the way he comes off. I understand that. But the thing is, in football, that don't really matter. Because he's going to go to a team that's going to love that. That's going to appreciate that. Okay, that's your swag. That's how you are. That's your personality. Andy Reid always says, let your personality show. That's cool. Whatever team find ways to get him, he's going to go there, he's going to ball out, and they're going to be cool whatever he does then. That's how it works.
That's real.
Real quick before you go, because it's like, and I don't know how can I say this and still be respectful, but it's like they did the same thing to Lamar Jackson. The way he run the ball, the way he plays quarterback, the way he dresses, the way he acts, the way he talks, the way he got jewelry in his mouth or jewelry on his chain. They hated all that. And that's why he waited. But then once he came there, it's been Action Jackson, MVP. Lamar Jackson. Then everything's cool. I'm cool with everything.
Yeah.
And I might get back to this point later on in this video, but I just want to say it now. The NFL does not know how to scout quarterbacks. Period. They don't know how to scout quarterbacks. If they did, half of the first round picks that came out, let's say in the last 10 to 15 years, would have either still been playing or at least had a ring. I can name at least 2 or 3 off the top of my head. Primarily, if I go to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you guys, I might be telling my age, but the Cleveland Browns, if I'm not mistaken, they drafted a guy named Tim Couch. He played for Kentucky. He was a first-round pick. I want to say he was the first overall pick for Cleveland Browns, if I'm not mistaken. Don't misquote me on that, but I think that's the case. Tim Crouch was a journeyman. Now, maybe they threw him to the Wolves too early. I don't know. But he was a journeyman. Another first-round pick, Ryan Leaf, when the San Diego Chargers was playing in San Diego, drafted number 1 overall. Ryan Leaf lasted 1 year. They said they put him out there too early. That's what's expected nowadays. But I just gave you examples of at least 2 quarterbacks that went 1 overall and they didn't succeed like that. But on the flip side, you have Tom Brady, was the last pick in the draft. He's now won more Super Bowls than anybody. Russell Wilson went in the 3rd round. Dak Prescott went in, I think, in the 4th round. You have quarterbacks that go last, but to put it in a nutshell, the owners and the GMs, their evaluations of quarterbacks is flawed. You need a facelift when it comes to the evaluation process, because to be honest with you, the wrong people are evaluating quarterbacks. Even Mel Kiper, he gets it wrong. The wrong people are evaluating quarterbacks, period.
I'm cool if you got the gold teeth in your mouth. I'm cool with that. Oh, I'm cool if you got the chains. I'm cool with that. So it's cool. We're going to wait. He's going to take his time. He's going to go out there, going to ball out. And then once he balls out, everybody's going to bend the knee and be cool, whatever Sheduer Sanders does. That's the fact.
We go in places here. We go in places here.
I'm going to conclude with Chase.
Why didn't Sheduer get drafted
and then I'm gonna
in
go
the
to
first
the next
round?
video.
I got 3 reasons for y'all. I spent a lot of time. I was up till 1 a.m. last night really mulling over this decision.
Well,
Why
I'm
didn't
gonna go with
Sheduer
him,
get drafted in the first
I don't
round?
wanna waste
Number
too
1,
long
he
on
didn't
this.
code switch. What do I mean he didn't code switch? Sheduer Sanders did not change his identity or how he comes off for the sake of the decision makers. He did not change how he comes off for the sake of the decision makers. And who are decision makers in the National Football League? Primarily non-minorities, primarily white people. He did not code switch. He stayed true to Sheduer. The problem is he didn't make himself more palatable to decision makers. He just didn't do it. And in job interviews, whether it's the National Football League or any job interview, oftentimes it behooves you to make yourself more palatable to decision makers. Sheduer Sanders did not do that.
So in other words, he's saying that Sheduer Sanders didn't kiss behind. When he went in these meetings or interviews, they saying that he was acting a certain way that owners and GMs or the coach didn't like. To me, it's more of a control issue. They probably felt that they couldn't control him in a certain manner. Like I said, any type of criticism of Sheduer, it can't be from his on the field. It's not on the field. Period. It's no way, because this guy led college basketball with completion percentage last year. Some people want to say, "Oh, well, he was dinking and dunking and stuff." You keep moving the goalposts. At the end of the day, he led college football completion percentage. I don't care if he was throwing 5 yards. How much games did Colorado win this year? They won at least 9 or 10 games, if I'm not mistaken. So you telling me he dinked and dunked all the way to 9 or 10 wins and a bowl game? Where they do that at? He was working with what he was able to. He was working with what he had to work with. Period. Why are we like? That's wild.
That's reason number one. Colvin, if we have the full screen, put it up there, please. The second reason, his confidence, I believe, it exceeded his perceived ability. That's just real. Y'all ain't gonna like everything I'm saying. It's just real. What do I mean by that? Sheduer Sanders, he didn't work out at the Senior Bowl. He didn't work out at the NFL Combine because he perceived that he didn't have to do that. Well, who else hasn't done that? Cam Ward, but he got drafted in the first round. Jaden Daniels last year, Caleb Williams last year, and Drake May last year, but they all got drafted in the first round. So Sheduer Sanders' confidence level, it exceeded his perceived ability.
But hold up. How did that hinder him from going in the first round just because he didn't try out? He tried out this college season. I mean, that was his tryout. So you're telling me all those other quarterbacks didn't try out or didn't do the NFL Combine, but they all went first, second round. What was the difference with Sheduer, though? Why did he have to show his skills, per se? Why did he have to come out to the NFL? Why did he have to do it? Because to be honest with you, people are not even really talking about Cam Ward, but Cam Ward didn't start at Miami. Cam Ward transferred to Miami, which means that to me, he would have had more of an insight to have to show his skills in the NFL Combine. Like, you can't just go by this one season to me with Cam Ward at Miami. This was just one season. He wasn't there last year. I forgot what team he came from, but he wasn't there. And you didn't hear his name prior to last year. So what made him so great? What made Jaden Daniels so great to where they didn't have to, but Sheduer did? Come on, man, that's collusion. I'm about to conclude this.
Other people thought of him was not the same of what he thought of himself. And lastly, people question his NFL ceiling. Let's just be honest. That's what it comes down to. What I love about this show, and I don't know why I forgot this, I'm sitting next to a dude who was a Heisman finalist and went undrafted. So only 3 people were better than my man Chase Daniel in college, yet he didn't even get drafted at all.
Cool. Let's go to Chase Daniels.
Refresh your patio with the core.
I'm gonna go to
$5
Chase Daniels.
this spring
I'm
at
gonna let him talk a little bit, then I'm gonna go to my next video.
I'm a quarterback. I've studied the game at a high level. I've been with some Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I've been with some Hall of Fame coaches. And when you really just break down the film on the field, I don't think, obviously, teams didn't view him as a first-round talent. Like, I just don't think he's going to have a good career. I don't think that teams wanted to take a flyer on him in the first round because a first-round quarterback, it's expensive. You're tying yourself to him for a long time. And sometimes that's hard to grasp, and that's okay. Teams might not think he has a high ceiling. I think that's probably what it ends up being is that, hey, this high ceiling, we don't know what he can do on the field. His arm's just not quite good enough. He's just not there. All this stuff matters. And I think there's a little bit of an inflated perception of himself. I think that does matter in the whole scheme of things when you're looking at.
That's cat. Okay. First of all, I said before, these people do not know how to scout quarterbacks at all. For you to say you don't know about his ceiling, what are you gauging from that? Like, what are you putting on the table to say, hey, we don't think Sheduer's ceiling is high enough in the NFL? Where's the gauge at? His father is Deion Sanders, for God's sake. So you're telling me that You don't think Deion is instilling in his son to operate at a high level and to be viewed as a person that has unlimited ceiling? Like, to me, that's just the most absurd thing I've heard this whole weekend about his talent. How all of a sudden his talent gets questioned? We didn't hear about this last year. His talent was not in question. It was his attitude. It was his personality that was in question. Now it's almost like, due to the conversation, they'll take certain things that benefit their conversation. If it's the personality that benefits their conversation, they bring that up. Then if it brings up the talent, then it benefits their conversation. If it's a talent question, we all know the talent question is absurd. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I don't get that.
Got it. Maybe his meetings with team didn't go as planned. Maybe there's.
I'm gonna conclude with that. The meetings that they're talking about. First of all, they said the Giants. Brian Dable. This is the report that came out saying that he had a bad interview with Brian Dable, saying that he had some install packages that he drew up, and I guess Sheduer didn't know, and I guess tried to catch him off guard. But I read an article yesterday, and I don't know if it's true or not, but you know I'm a Giants fan, so I follow this stuff. I read an article where they said Brian Dable said out of all the interviews he said he had a successful interview with everybody that met with him. So maybe, can he just be, I don't know what he could be trying to do. I don't know. But let me hear what, this is Stephen A. Smith. I might have to conclude with this, but let's see how this goes.
Smell bull.
A couple teams that I won't allow him to play for. This is my profession. I know what's behind the curtain. We ain't got to get back there for me to understand what's not prominent for my son. I'm not doing it.
And if he doesn't listen to you?
Who? No, you must mean owners.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the coach, it don't get me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over. And I've done it over and over and over. So it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me. You think I'm worried about what critics say or what people gotta say? You know who my dad is? They hated on him too. So it's like it's almost normal. Without people hating, it's not normal for us. So we like diversity. We like everything that comes with the name. That's why we are who we are.
That's what I smell. I smell it. And as we can see, my nose is pretty large. Even though I got allergies, I can still smell well enough. I know what I'm smelling when I'm smelling it. Sheduer Sanders, 5th round pick. Really? Stephen A. Smith Show in the house.
Let's take a quick little break for a second from the episode and talk about something that is dear.
I'm gonna go back
to me,
to
which is
Sheduer Sanders.
Clearly, my hair is one of the.
Let me go back to Sheduer Sanders real quick.
Let's roll.
Before I let Stephen A. do his thing, I might conclude with this one, but I'm gonna say this. That speech, I'm going to be honest with you, that speech probably hindered, along with that speech that Sheduer did and with Deion said on that show. I forgot to let the show that we was on, forgive me, doesn't even matter. At the beginning of the season or the draft process, I would say around January, February, there was, I think Deion Sanders that went on the show when he stated that he was going to interfere with where Sheduer go at. That's not a secret as to this being done previously. Archie Manning did it with Eli Manning. That wasn't criticized at all. That didn't hinder Eli from not going to San Diego, signing with the Giants. Like, that was in our face. Nobody made a big deal about it. Everybody was like, "Oh, Archie Manning is just looking out for Eli." Da 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 da. But now when you get Deion Sanders doing the same thing, it's a microscope being put up under him now. Now when you look at the press conference where Sheduer said, "If you don't want to get me, then don't pick me," that probably was something that he shouldn't have said, especially prior to a draft. Because you don't own this stuff. You have people that own this stuff. You have 32 owners that let's just face it. I'm not saying that they're racist, but they don't be rocking with us like that. And if you talk that way, they're going to show you better than they can tell you. And Sheduer being now 5th round pick, 144th pick to Cleveland after they drafted Gabriel from Oregon, they knew. I'm going to tell you what happened. Just to put it in a nutshell. What happened was, it was either two things that happened. Either the NFL didn't want the Sanders family to have the satisfaction of their son being drafted that high, where he could have gained more capital versus being drafted in the 5th round. Obviously, a first, second round pick, you're going to get more money. Maybe they didn't want the satisfaction of them having to pay him that amount, but there was conclusion in this, because there's no way that for 4 rounds, you're telling me that Tyler Shuck, who went to the Saints at 40th pick, was better than Sheduer. You're not going to tell me that even Jackson Dart, where the Giants moved back up into the draft, 25th pick, when they traded with Houston Texans, and they picked Jackson Dart. I'm not knocking Dart. To be honest with you, I have to root for him because he's on my team now. But you're not going to tell me he's better than Sheduer Sanders. Jackson Dart wasn't even thought of around 2 or 3 weeks ago. Everyone knew Sheduer Sanders was at least a top 20 pick, because they were saying that if the Giants skip, if the Saints skip, then it's Pittsburgh. There was only a handful of teams that needed a quarterback this year. That's another reason why I felt that Sheduer should have went 1st round. Not only, there was a weak quarterback class. There wasn't a lot of teams that needed a quarterback. But on the flip side, how can you not take that kind of talent? It was collusion. The second thing I want to, before I let Stephen A. conclude with this, is I think it was a situation where the NFL wanted us to look at the draft for multiple days, because everybody know after the first day of the draft, don't nobody watch no draft on the second and third day, but everybody was looking at the draft this weekend to see where Sheduer went at. So could this be a collusion to where the NFL wanted to gain ratings from Friday and Saturday? He finally got drafted on Saturday, but the draft started Thursday. They knew people wasn't going to watch no draft on Friday, and they knew people wasn't going to watch the draft on Saturday. But the fact that Sheduer Sanders didn't get drafted, they knew people was going to look at the draft on Friday and Saturday. I was looking at it both days. And at least I witnessed him get drafted. But let's go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the special edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you over the digital airways of YouTube and, of course, iHeartRadio. I'm getting right into it because I'm off on this particular Saturday, but I had to make sure I let my thoughts be known, okay? Because we're going to get started with the story that made headlines all over, all the sports networks overnight, and then some. And that was the NFL draft and the precipitous slide of quarterback Sheduer Sanders, son of primetime Deion Sanders, who many considered the second best quarterback in January. Yeah. Sanders was just picked by the Cleveland Browns as the 144th selection of the 5th round overall. Sheduer wasn't drafted in round 1 on Thursday. He wasn't drafted on Friday during rounds 2 and 3, and teams passed on him again earlier this afternoon in round 4. So here's a look at all the quarterbacks that have been taken so far. Cam Ward went number 1 overall at Tennessee. Then the Giants picked Jackson Dart with the 25th overall pick, a pick they moved up to get, by the way. They moved up to get that pick. Round 2 began last night, and the first quarterback taken was Tyler Shuck, who went to the New Orleans Saints with the 40th overall pick. Then in round 3 to Seattle, the Seahawks took Jalen Milroe from Alabama with the 92nd overall pick. And then 2 picks later,
better than Sheduer.
The Cleveland Browns selected Dylan Gabriel with the 94th overall pick in the 3rd round. And there were no more quarterbacks taken on Friday.
Okay. I'm going to let him talk a little bit, but I'm going to conclude this right here real quick. There was obviously collusion with the owners. This is only my opinion, but I think this is what happened. they already knew that Sheduer, nobody was going to pick Sheduer in the first 4 rounds. But the PR for the NFL started gaining heat on, I think it was Saturday morning. It was getting too hot, if that makes any sense, because everybody started wondering, like, hey, how is Sheduer Sanders still not drafted? Everybody started kind of questioning what's going on. Even Donald Trump came out and made a tweet about the owners being stupid and allowing a talent like this to go past, get passed over and over and over. Like, there was obviously collusion, and it's still collusion going on. And I'm going to definitely make a part 2 to this because I'm not done with this. But I want to conclude with this. This is what I think will happen. The NFL owners got together, all 32, and they all said that we're not going to draft this guy high. Once the heat started coming back on them, they realized they have to lift the veil off of Sheduer Sanders' draft stock. They know they already damaged his money. They damaged his stock because now look at it. Being that he's been drafted in the 5th round, he can potentially be a journeyman and not even have to be a journeyman, or he doesn't deserve to be a journeyman for that matter, but they can use that as a ploy now to say, hey, you were a 5th round pick. You ain't nobody, but we all know that that's cap. We all know that Sheduer was definitely first, if not first, definitely a 2nd round pick. But no way in the world that he should have went in the 5th round. But again, I hear the talk about God don't make mistakes. He's going to prove himself. I get it. But it still doesn't take away from the collusion, and it still doesn't take away from this type of nonsense happening again.
So those are the 5 quarterbacks that went ahead of Sheduer Sanders. And before I give you my feelings on this, I want to show you the 5 quarterbacks the Browns now have on their roster. The quarterback room now includes Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, the aforementioned Dylan Gabriel, Deshaun Watson, who is injured with his Achilles tear, and of course now Sheduer Sanders. Ladies and gentlemen, you know it's bad when the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is pushing out tweets about how corrupt it is. I mean, think about that. President Donald Trump is pulling out tweets about how corrupt it is and how these owners look absolutely stupid or ill-advised. And I don't know about y'all, but I want y'all to listen before I get into it to my man Mel Kiper Jr. of ESPN, who is going off about Sheduer Sanders being snubbed because he had Sanders as arguably the best quarterback in this draft. Listen to what this man had to say.
The NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterback. Clueless. All that, no idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterback. That's proof. There's proof of that.
How many
they say we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterback. They don't.
ALM Hyundai.
And I'm going to conclude with that. I'm going to do a part 2. I'm going to get into I'm going to still get into more collusion. I'm going to try to find a video with the prank call that they did on Sheduer and Dion. That happened from a Atlanta Falcons DC Sun. I live outside of Atlanta, so I'm close to that situation also. But I'm gonna conclude part 1 of this. This definitely deserves part 2, at least 2 parts to this. The collusion of Sheduer. That's what I'm calling this. We need to do better. But I'm not done with this. We're gonna get into some more heat on this topic. Come one, come all. Spontaneous views.